What if the reason she stopped respecting you was not because you said too little, but because you said too much? Think about that. Most men do not lose respect because they are bad men. They lose respect because they panic in silence. They rush to explain. They rush to defend. They rush to fix what has not even been understood yet. And the worst part is this: the more a man talks from fear, the less powerful his words become. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you are going to understand why silence is one of the strongest forms of masculine power, why most men use it the wrong way, and how to make your silence feel calm, strong, and impossible to ignore. If you love videos like this video, subscribe to LoveDecoded Hub and drop your feelings in the comments. I want to know what this topic makes you think about. Now let's begin. Most men think respect comes from talking more. They think if they explain themselves enough, she will understand. They think if they keep checking in, she will feel cared for. They think if they keep filling every pause, the connection will stay alive. But that is not how respect works. Respect is not built by noise. It is built by presence, and presence is often quiet. The painful truth is that many men destroy their own power without realizing it. They reply too fast. They explain too much. They apologize too quickly. They chase every misunderstanding like it is an emergency. And in doing that, they teach the other person something dangerous. They teach her that their peace is fragile. They teach her that their frame is weak. They teach her that silence makes them nervous. Once that happens, respect starts to fall. Not all at once, quietly, slowly, in ways you can feel before you can explain. At first, she may not even notice it. She may still like you. She may still care. She may still be there. But when every silence from her makes you anxious, and every delayed reply makes you overreact, the energy changes. Now, your words do not land with strength. They land with need. And need has a way of lowering respect. Because the problem is not silence itself. The problem is what your silence means. If your silence means you are pouting, punishing, or trying to manipulate, it feels weak. But if your silence means you are calm, centered, and self-respecting, it becomes powerful. That is the difference most men never learn. They think silence is about disappearing. It is not. Silence is about not begging for attention that should be freely given. It is about not over-explaining your worth to someone who already has the chance to see it. It is about knowing when to speak, and knowing when your silence says more than words ever could. And that is where the pain begins for a lot of men. Because silence forces you to sit with yourself. It forces you to feel the discomfort of not being immediately answered. It forces you to face your fear of being misunderstood. It forces you to see how dependent you became on her reaction. That is a hard mirror, because once you realize that your mood changes based on her tone, you also realize you gave away too much power. And that is exactly why your silence matters. Not because it controls her, but because it returns control to you. Now, here is the psychology. People respect what feels stable. They trust what does not shake easily. If every small shift in the relationship pulls you off balance, you become easy to read and easy to affect. But when you remain calm, when you do not rush to chase every emotional wave, when you let moments breathe, you become harder to manipulate. Not cold, not distant for no reason, just grounded. And grounded men are rare. That rarity creates weight, weight creates presence, presence creates respect. A woman may not always say this out loud, but she feels it when a man stops overreacting. She feels it when he can sit in silence without begging to fill it. She feels it when he does not collapse just because her energy shifted. That is when she starts paying attention differently. Not because you played a game, not because you became fake, but because your silence finally carries meaning. And now comes the rehook, because this is where most men go wrong again. They hear silence and think they should withdraw to make her chase. That is not the point. If you use silence to punish, you create confusion. If you use silence to control, you create distrust. If you use silence to prove a point, you create distance. But if you use silence to protect your peace, you create respect. That changes everything. Let me show you the difference. A weak silence says, "I am hurt, so I will disappear and hope you panic." A strong silence says, "I know my value and I do not need to force what should be mutual." One is emotional insecurity. The other is self-respect. One pushes people away. The other makes them think. And thinking is powerful. Because when a woman experiences a man who does not chase every response, does not explain every feeling, and does not fold under pressure, she begins to see him differently. She realizes he is not trying to be controlled. He's not waiting to be saved. He's not depending on her mood to define his worth. That is attractive. That is rare. That is memorable. Now, let us talk about the pain that makes this topic so important. A lot of men are not losing respect because they lack love. They are losing respect because they are too available in the wrong way. They answer every call. They reply to every message. They react to every silence. They explain every emotion before anyone even asks. And over time, that creates a strange effect. The more available you are without boundaries, the less your presence feels valuable. People do not respect what feels unlimited. They respect what has shape. They respect what has standards. They respect what does not bend every time pressure appears. That is why silence can be powerful. It reminds people that your time is not automatic, your energy is not endless, your attention is not guaranteed, and that makes them value you more. Now here is the real solution. Do not become silent to make a woman nervous. Become silent because you are no longer begging for emotional permission. Speak clearly when something matters. Say what you need without fear. Be honest without chasing. Be calm without becoming cold. Then step back and let your silence breathe. Do not rush to fill every gap. Do not panic when you are not instantly understood. Do not over-explain yourself to people who need time to meet you with respect. A man who can do that becomes different. He becomes harder to shake, harder to disrespect, harder to manipulate, harder to forget. And that is the power most men ignore. Not loud power, not fake power, quiet power. The kind that does not need to announce itself, the kind that says, "I know who I am." That is what makes her respect your silence. Not the silence itself, the man behind it. So if your silence has been coming from pain, take your power back. If your silence has been coming from fear, return to your center. If your silence has been coming from need, rebuild your frame. Because respect does not grow where panic lives. It grows where calm lives. It grows where standards live. It grows where a man knows that his value is not measured by how fast he replies. It is measured by how well he carries himself when things get quiet. And that is the lesson. Silence is not weakness when it comes from self-respect. Silence is power when it comes from control. Silence is strength when it comes from peace. And silence becomes unforgettable when the man behind it has value. If this video helped you see things differently, like this video, subscribe to Love Decoded Hub and drop your feelings in the comments. Tell me this. Do you think silence is powerful? Or do most men use it the wrong way? I read the comments and your answer might shape the next video, because on this channel we do not just talk about love, we talk about value, respect, and the truth most people ignore until it is too late.